Welcome back to the Creating One podcast, and this is the Blueprint Part 3. I come here to tell you guys that now that you have seen what the foundation looks like, and you've analyzed your foundation, and you've taken a look at some of the life experiences that you have undertaken, what do you think your blueprint looks like? Do you have the schematic to get you to your divine purpose, to select your friends, to select your tribesmen, to select a mate, someone who God has called or ordained to be your husband or your wife? Well, I want to tell you that I don't want you to let time be your enemy. Time is your friend, but time should not be wasted frivolously. And the one beautiful thing that time gives you is that it allows you to assess all things. So I want you to take the time and assess all things. Assess the people that come into your life, the experiences that you have, the jobs that you work, all of these things that happen to you. These fellowships are going to get you closer to your relationship with God. Many of you are under societal pressure to get married and have children almost immediately before you even know who you are. For some, you are believing in this idea that you are defined by your proximity to a man or to a woman. Many young men of purpose have been deemed automatically gay when pacing themselves towards their future. And similar for young women. There must be something wrong with you. How come you don't have a man? Everybody should have kids. This is the world trying to tell you to go to hell because they are there. Thugs are not your choice, ladies. And men, that's not your course of study. Do you see the prisons? Do you see the numbers? How is that working out for those people who chose a life that they really were not born from? So many of you are trying to pretend to be something that you're not to get verification and validation from a world that's only going to point and say you made a bad choice, while at the same time we're a part of the bad choices that you made. Your worth is not measured by the proximity of a man or a woman or having children. If you spend the rest of your life, this life, reaching for your greatest potential in God, you are approved. I can promise you that. I mean, what do you want to do? What do you not want to do? I want you to think closely about more or less what you don't want to do, because what you don't want to do becomes much more easier, because very often when we are young, we are taught what is right and what is wrong, what you shouldn't do and what you should not do. So even though everything seems to be perfect or seems to be going your way, there's always going to be temptations that are going to come into your life to get you off of your path. So what you do not want to do is become so desperate and restless with the time of the world and position yourself for just settling and making excuses to not be present. And when I say not being present, is that you're thinking about what your future is going to look like even before you've even actualized and acknowledged and humbled yourself to your past. When you are young, you're going to make mistakes in communication. And I can promise you that the biggest mistake that I made was playing with this temple that God gave me. I don't admonish myself too much about it anymore, because I thank God for my fiance, because God gave me an opportunity to see what wonders can come when you position yourself differently. I had a foundation, a blueprint, or so I thought. I had both, really, but I didn't really know it. I hadn't took real inventory of the time that was allowed for me until I had the time that was allowed to me to sit still long enough and just thank God for the protection that He provided me and keeping me from so much hurt, harm, and danger. I could have made so many bad choices and they would have been good enough for the world, but they wouldn't have been great enough for me. And I'm so grateful that God kept me through all of that, because I'm telling you, I was a mess. I still am, but I was way more of a mess before I actually knew who I was and acknowledged that, you know what? I don't have to do it the way the world wants me to do it. I am me, and I understand exactly what God wants from me. And I understood the voice when I heard it. The voice of triumph could always be heard. I never planned really to be a therapist, a teacher, a crafter, really of any of those things. I knew what I loved to do. I knew what I loved spending time doing. But I was as confused about the rest of my life as the people I talk to today. So you're not alone when you graduate and you're like, oh, I want to do this, I want to do that. And when you know you only have really one real opportunity to study one thing at a time or to focus on one thing at a time. And it can sometimes get a little overwhelming. So I took a look at the things, all the things that I liked, the people who inspired me, and the opportunities that were before me, and I maximized on them all. From my parents to the people who I fellowship with at church, in my neighborhood, my teachers, my fiance, the jobs, my higher academic achievements. I maximized on them all. And I can collectively say that through all of those things, I just wanted to be a helper. I wanted to make a difference. So I positioned myself to be a helper, and I positioned myself to be able to make a difference. Not a single person I met after my fiance could close the deal, however. And a lot of people told me you're too young to be putting your life on hold. You have so much life ahead of you. So I got back in the race, the proverbial race. But I realized he had set a standard. I reviewed not just the past, but I recognized I needed more time to see what the future could be like. One gentleman was unavailable, another couldn't keep appointments, another didn't count me in until the projects were all collapsing, another simply decided he just wanted no family. He was told that your greatest peace comes from singleness. And another one just had the temperament still of an adolescent. I had several offers to settle, and I declined them all. Those that I didn't decline, I decided the time was up. Love is something that we desire, but imagine being in a relationship with someone you don't even like, just to have the ideals of the world that suggest you've made it, you've arrived, you're successful, you are a real woman. Once the blueprint has been submitted, you, being the cartographer or the map maker, can now use this schematic to guide you to your purpose in God. I know that this is the season to teach. However, any fellowship I undertake at this point in my journey must be with others willing to not just do the work for God, regardless if it is my family DNA, those I meet in the tribal space, or my husband if God so chooses that path for me. The blueprint. The blueprint is here. The blueprint is now. Start writing your blueprint. I want you to think about your childhood. I want you to heal yourself. Acknowledge all of the wounds, all of the pain, the struggles, all of the things that hurt you. And then I want you to think about all the wonderful things that stood out to you, that were marvelous, that helped you feel every day you could take another breath and move forward. I want you to start analyzing the relationships that you engage in. Think about who it is that you would like to be with in your future. Don't make any decisions about who you want to be with until you know who you are. Yes, you will continue to grow and evolve through time, but the one thing that you do not want to do is put yourself in the presence of a dream killer, somebody who will look, listen, and laugh because they don't believe in you, because they don't believe in themselves. And pay close attention to people who are willing to give you something that they don't even give to themselves. You want to be with someone who doesn't even love themselves? You want to believe that this person can love you when they don't even love themselves? Absolutely not. Your job is not to repair anyone, but to help them get to a closer relationship with God. There are so many people unhappy. Look at the divorce rate. Everybody's trying to tell you what you need to be doing, what you should be doing. And I think at this point now, nobody's really selling the marriage thing as much as they used to be. But boy, are they selling the you don't have any children, something must be wrong with you thing. I've even heard it from some of the men in my family, and I look at their children and I cry for them because they don't have the stability that their parents think they are providing, while they are pointing out what someone else doesn't have to verify and validate whether or not there's something wrong or not wrong with them. And this is what I mean when I say you need to think about the fellowships that you engage in. Some of you are tying yourself to ships that are never going to reach a port. Don't you want the victory? Don't you want to be able to claim that, at least if nothing else, you know exactly who you are, what you want, and what you don't want in your life? I want you to take some time, analyze your foundation, and start looking at your blueprint. If you don't have your blueprint, I want you to pull out a piece of paper, grab your digital device, and start putting you in the center of that piece. And then writing out from the spokes like a wheel, what is it that you want to see happen in your life? What is it that you want to see God manifest in your life? Whatever it is, I want you to write it down. Even if it is your spouse, your wife, or your husband, your children, your future, how all these things are going to help magnify and bless God. That is what I would like you to do with your blueprint. Start actualizing what your blueprint is going to look like, and then start following the path that's going to get you there. It might be school. It might be moving out of the neighborhood that you grew up in. It might be going to college. It might be going to trade school, or it might be going into the military. But whatever it is you do, do not sit idle. Do not let time pass you by. Time is your friend and not your enemy.